Out where we live, it's just too far. But they are scraping and salting off the layer of ice. You can see it's starting to rain. It's supposed to get up to 49 degrees today, and it is a slow climb. Your boots cannot grab a hold. And these rubber boots just slip. Somewhere I've got a pair of those little rubbers with spikes on them for walking in ice and snow. Of course, can't find them. I believe they're at my old home, 45 minutes away. One of my subscribers recommended getting a pair, and I knew I had a pair. Looked everywhere for them. So I had to take a little trip and pick those up. One of these days we'll move out of that house. It's nice though, when the weather gets bad out here, you can just disappear there. So these guys, trying to get them fed. Of course, the ice sled is the only thing that'll go on this. You cannot get the dolly through here because it just sinks, because it's like mushy underneath and refroze on top. So you just slip. My neighbor came down yesterday just to stop in and say hi. She's a mile away, and she walked down here just to say hi, and I could not believe she was out walking in this stuff. She's like 70 years old. She's more brave than I. So I'm trying to get these guys fed. This froze during the night. They're absolute ice blocks. That is a solid block. I cannot get it apart. This one's even worse because it got slushy and frozen. So they're just terrible, miserable, wet cows. One of these days we'll build a run-in for them. A lot of areas out here they have no kind of shelter at all, but with the bulls they're getting more bully. With Chocolate, you just can't trust them to get in there and lead them up to the barn, so here they stay. They're made for it. They can handle it. There's cows out on pasture in the mountains of Colorado and stuff, but you can see they get shaggy. Their hair starts standing up on top. They're cold and wet. It's just a poopy day. So when people ask me, how do you find time in the day to do everything? Well, I stay home. The snow truck, the salt truck are out. People are going to town that don't need to be going. I'm going to stay put. There's no reason to risk life and limb to go out, to run to the store, to go shopping, to mail a package. Things can always be put off for a day or a few hours for the weather to kind of change. We're in Michigan. It changes by the hour. By 6 o'clock tonight, it's supposed to be up to like 45, 49 degrees. We'll kind of see what's happening. But the fact that they're out scraping this off, if it's supposed to melt, tells me it's probably not going to happen. We have got such low-lying cloud cover today. I'm staying put. All those little dots out there in the middle are deer. I can count at least 15. That's quite a herd. So maybe next fall, instead of butchering a cow, I'm going to be butchering some deer. Because they like to come up and eat, and they're going to all be after my sunflower crop this year. Well, I'll tell you one really great thing about the weather going back and forth the way it is. All that snow melted. The driveway was a total sheet of ice. I was able to do a little work here around the farm, in and out, because I was basically stuck in the house because the snow was so deep. Today, see this? We got a layer of ice on everything. There's literally an inch of ice. But since we got that garage door done, check this out. So since the weather was so cold, we were able to use the garage also as a meat locker. Now, I didn't want to just have meat hanging from a tree and, questions from the neighbors or anything. We had the scaffolding set up in here for working on the garage door. So he decided we would just hang the meat from the scaffolding, and we're just using baling twine. It works great. This was a smaller size bull that we wanted to get rid of. It was just slow growing. It's been here for like 2 years, and the calves that were born a year ago were the same size. So he was a loser and had to go, and he is going in the freezer. There's no reason to try to keep him around and fatten him up. So I am working on this. This has been hanging for about 15 days. We had a little bit of a warm day the day before yesterday, and it's coming back again tomorrow. So I want to get this all done. There's not a lot of meat left on these ribs, but this upper section here up around the neck muscles. So it's kind of complicated because it's been hanging here dry. I've got like a crust layer that I need to get rid of, and then I trim it all off. We have a meat saw at the house. Let me show you what's going on in there. So it's not a USDA approved butchering facility. This is our house garage. We just use it for storage. It's the main entrance in and out of the house. So we've got all the coats and shoes lined up in this handy little stainless steel table. I've got all my butcher knives, and I'll put a link in the description for these. They are called Victorinox, and these are all from eBay. We just picked up 1 or 2 knives at a time to kind of defer the cost. I really found that these narrow, they called them pruning knives, were great for doing the chickens, and these curved knives, and they're working really great on deboning anything that we want to debone. So I've got this large rib section that I'm working on, and a lot of it is going to go through the grinder. Now this is the grinder attachment that goes on the side of the meat saw. It just mounts right on the spindle here, just like that. And all the grinder parts are all right here. Everything is stainless steel. Any of the plastics are BPA free and food grade. Now, if you're going to do any kind of cutting with the meat saw, this is essentially a band saw, and this blade goes around and around at a high speed. Even when you're grinding, the blade engages. You want to use these Kevlar sleeve guards. These will keep you safe from any accidental cuts. I also have Kevlar gloves for handling the meat while I'm slicing it, and it really helps so that your hands don't get all gummy from the fat and the meat as you're working, because like when that blood dries on your hands, it gets slippery. I always have a hand of cloths, towels, and rags for doing that. And for cutting large portions, like if you wanted to save any of this ribs, this was a very skinny cow, and anything that's meat in between the ribs is very thin. I'm probably going to just give them to the cats, but you could use this meat saw, and I believe this was a 22 or a 28 inch blade. They had a smaller one, I think that was about 18 inch. We do whole pigs. So if you want to cut down a spine or through an animal, this hand meat saw works really great, and the blade is removable for replacement and for washing. I don't know the actual maker of the meat saw. It is just like a meat saw that I saw online from like Gander Mountain or something like that. I'd actually picked it up on Craigslist a long time ago. China, you know, makes everything, and we have only used it a couple of times. He found that he was having a lot of trouble with the control, the power on-off button, so he wired them together, and we just keep it on an extension cord. So we have to unplug it, have to run to the shop. Menards can give us, you know, like a toggle on-off switch to replace that out of there, but it works really great for cutting through the bones, for full steaks and roasts. Very, very handy. So I have him do all the grinding to kind of keep me going on the meat. It's a slow process when you're deboning and doing anything that way instead of taking up the freezer space. But we have a pig to do. We have done chickens recently. There are ducks in the freezer. We've had rabbits in the past. And this year is not going to be any different than any other year. We try to primarily feed ourselves as far as meat goes. When you have to get to the store, you know, we can't just keep on track all the time with a family as large as ours. We do buy meat from the store, but we want to have as much of our own in the freezer as possible. So take advantage of this cold weather. Get a neighbor, get a buddy, get your wife helping you. I know this channel is a lot of guys watching this. If you're a woman, have the guys help you. There are, you know, my gosh, the deer on this place are so plentiful that I wish I had some of those in our freezer also. We generally run 2 freezers all year round. It's so much more economical for us to run 2 freezers than to buy meat at the store. And because we're doing our own processing, it's all just fine. Take advantage of this cold weather and use your garage as a deep freeze. It is so handy to have. Remember, pigs don't need to be hung at all, and you can hang a cow anywhere grass-fed 7 to 10 days, kind of depending on how much fat it has. 14 to 20 days on a heavy cow, maybe grain-fed with a little more fat on it. The first cow we ever did, we did not hang it. It was spongy. It was terrible. Nobody in the family would eat it. It became cat and dog food for the farm animals. Terrible waste, lots of work. Never ever going to do that again. Always hang your meat. I really I really have to stress that and advise you on that, because it was a beginner's mistake and you learn from your mistakes, right? So learn from my mistakes. So thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.